Greetings, everyone. I would like to talk in this video about the larger transition that we're in collectively in this time and what the astrological energies are across the next several years as we're continuing in this transformational process with the ending of one precessional cycle and the beginning of a new one, and the movement into the age of Aquarius, the movement into higher consciousness as humanity. This is a profound time when we can make an evolutionary leap as humanity. And yet we need to be working this time consciously. We need to be in our own individual and collective process of awakening, of healing and transforming, to be working with these energies to move into these new ways of being. As you know, I am very interested in these larger cycles of human history and consciousness. And in particular, we can trace these shifts as we move through the precessional cycle, which is that 24,000-year cycle, when we move through the energies of each constellation on the zodiac, and how those archetypal energies for a period of about 2,000 years are influencing our cultural paradigms, our historical perspective, the lens through which we're seeing our experience on the planet. The precessional cycle is related to the way in which our sun is most likely a binary star, like 80% of the stars in our galaxy. And I agree with Walter Cruttenden's research, where he indicates that it's most likely that our binary star is Sirius, the brightest star in our sky. And as we're in this dance with our binary star Sirius, we move through these shifts in consciousness. We move through the precessional cycle and the different astrological ages. And as described in the Hindu Yuga cycle, we move through this spiral of ascending consciousness, descending consciousness, then ascending consciousness again. As so many ancient prophecies have described, the Mayans, the Hopis, the Hindu Yuga cycle, so many spiritual teachers have talked about, the Peruvian shamans also, have talked about this time as the time of awakening, the time of remembering who we are, of coming into awareness of the wisdom that we have forgotten from the past. It's an opportunity for us to awaken and move into a golden age, a higher state of consciousness. This is related to these shifts in the precessional cycle. It's also related to the fact that we are now moving through a part of the galaxy where we're more bombarded by cosmic energies coming from the galactic center, intensified solar energies that are supporting us in transforming physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. So as we're in this time of transition and transformation, we are shifting from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And remember, the meaning of Aquarius is about our experience of these living energies coming from the water bearer to the earth, the living waters of wisdom, of life, of consciousness, supporting us in awakening and transforming. As we're in this shift, we are needing to heal and clear the trauma from the past in order to move into this higher consciousness. We can't do a spiritual bypass and move into this higher dimensional level or higher frequency or the energy of the fifth dimension without clearing the trauma from the past, so that we can expand and integrate these higher energies, this new consciousness, in an integrated way. So we need to heal individually. We also need to heal collectively. And I do believe that the energies that we're in astrologically now and through the next few years are supporting us in how to work that healing and transformational process. But before I get into that, let me just give you a bit of an overview of how we are where we are now. We are at the end of a 5,000-year period, the period of patriarchy, which started approximately 2000 BCE and has continued up through the present. This was when we moved from being more right brain dominant into being more left brain dominant. We moved from the age of Taurus, where we saw the sacred in all of life. There was the honoring of the great goddess, the energies of the sacred feminine. And as we moved into the age of Aries, we moved into a time of elevating the energies of the sacred masculine and shifting from that sense of the sacred is in us, is immanent, is in the life around us, to the sense of spirituality as transcendent, above and beyond us. This shift into this patriarchal period, I believe, was a necessary part of our journey. The age of Aries and moving into this paradigm has been about our human experience of exploring our individuality, exploring our left brain ways of knowing, our capacity to analyze and explore and understand the life around us, our capacity to experience our sense of separate self, and to be on that hero's journey of adventure and discovery. However, I believe that there were some traumatic experiences as we moved into the age of Aries that continue to reverberate in a collective PTSD that we need to clear and heal in order to gain and retain the wisdom from the age of Aries and clear the distortions that we got caught in due to our trauma response. What do I mean by that? Part of what I've discovered in my research is that as we were in the ending of the age of Taurus, remember that every age begins with the energy of that sign. So the age of Taurus really honored, starting at about 4000 BC, that energy of Taurus, that sacredness of the earth, Venus as the planetary ruler. The deities of that time were about honoring Venus. Remember, Inanna is the Sumerian god of deity during that time, which is all about Venus and the Venus cycle. So we begin the age of Taurus with that energy of Taurus, and then we move in the last half of a 2000-year astrological age into that age being influenced by the sign opposite. So the sub-age of Taurus is ruled by Scorpio, which the traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and the modern ruler is Pluto. Interestingly, as we move into approximately 3000 BCE, that second half of the age of Taurus, there were increasing experiences of climate crisis, including some comet activity in terms of comets that struck the Earth, triggering climate change and cultural collapse. There were other experiences of drought during that time. It was a time of turmoil culturally and in terms of earth changes that led to the fall of many of the civilizations at that time. It was also a time when then some nomadic warriors came from the steppes of Russia, the Kurgan warriors, who then came into some of the villages in the Mediterranean area, in old Europe, and began to invade and conquer these agricultural settlements that were more honoring of the sacred feminine, were more goddess cultures, were more agricultural in nature, and these nomadic warriors who were shepherds came in and began to conquer the area. This is the shift into the age of Aries. Remember, Aries is the symbol of the ram, and we now move into a time where there are these nomadic herdsmen who are more and more dominant. But we're also shifting as we move into the age of Aries into the energy of Mars and into an increasing paradigm of war, of power over, competition, greed. These are aspects of the energy of Mars, but unfortunately the shadow side of Mars. How did this happen? I believe that part of what was unfolding at that time, as we experienced the Earth changes, the climate crisis, the disasters with the comet activity between 3000 BCE and 2000 BCE, it triggered trauma. It triggered collective PTSD. So one of the characteristics of these invading nomadic warriors is they believed in the sky gods. There was this effort to honor, to sacrifice to the sky gods for protection, because this disaster with the comet activity had come from the sky. So there's the sense of the earth is in turmoil. We're being punished by these energies coming from the sky. How do we protect ourselves? So a trauma response is we need to somehow take control. You know, the classic coping mechanisms for trauma, acute trauma, are fight, flight, freeze. So here we have this cultural trauma unfolding that's affecting the collective consciousness. And we see, as we then shift into the age of Aries, we come out of sub-age of Scorpio, ruled by Mars. We're seeing this cultural need to face the fear of death. And what comes out of that as you move into the age of Aries is this Mars effort to be in control, to have power, to fight or to flee in order to feel safe and secure, a trauma response that I think then gets entangled in the energy of the age of Aries, which is about moving into more of our sense of self, our capacity for self-assertion, our ability to explore and understand the world around us, to be on that hero's journey of adventure. But now it's entangled with a trauma response. It's interesting to me that, the beginning of Taurus is about honoring life, the sacredness of life, the capacity to establish these agricultural villages where we're honoring the energies of the earth and we're feeling nurtured and supported by the earth, by the great goddess who's in the sacredness of the life around us. We move into the sub-age of Scorpio and we're needing to face our fear of death. It's interesting that all the great spiritual and mystery traditions have, as part of that initiation process, we need to face our fear of death in order to reclaim our awareness of our immortality, of our soul selves, the remembrance that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And if we don't work through that fear of death, then we tend to act out that fear in our effort for safety, control, security. But remember, whatever we fear that we haven't faced and worked through, we tend to draw to us or act it out on others. So what we have then as we move into the age of Aries is this increasing energy of invasion, conquering, death, destruction. We then see the rise of the great empires, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, this effort for control, for mastery, for superiority. This is both an expression of Mars and its adventure and self-assertion, but it's also an expression of this effort to be in control in order to feel secure in the world. And that is still with us. We have not healed from that PTSD. And so we see in the world often these destructive patterns of war, of violence, of power over, in ways that can threaten the entire globe. Why do we get so compulsively caught up in that? Because we're terrified of death and striving for control and fearful of our mortality. So as we're in this transition time, I do believe in an extraordinary way, the energies of the earth and sky are calling us into consciousness of what needs to heal for us to transform and move into these higher states of consciousness. So let me just follow this through a little bit. We move into the age of Aries. We're both dealing with a trauma response, but also the exploration of the age of Aries. And remember, we need the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. It is a part of our journey in our human evolution. Those energies are within each one of us. But remember the journey of Mars, which is the template for the age of Aries. Is Mars in its cycle journeys away from the sun, is on that hero's journey of exploration and discovery, separating and individuating and experiencing its sense of separation from source. Then it comes to its opposition with the sun, which is when Mars is at its brightest. And that's the point at which Mars realizes, oh, I am in connection with source. I am in relationship with the sun. I am part of the oneness of all that is. And then the Mars journey is the return to source and bringing back the gifts of the discovery of the adventure and this expression of individuation to be of service to community and to be honoring that connection with source and with the others around us. That's Mars in its true archetypal energy. This is also paralleled in that in the age of Aries, the sub-age, which would have come approximately 1000 BCE, is carrying the energy of the sign opposite Aries, Libra. So again, even within that template of the age of Aries, we're being called to explore that Aries energy, then integrate it with the energy of Libra, ruled by Venus, bring it back into relationship, bring that exploration and discovery back into right relationship, back into balance, in community, in service to others. But I believe because of the trauma embedded in our experience of moving into the age of Aries, we continued on this trajectory. And you see this with the rise of the Roman Empire, an increasing idealization of war, power over, conquest, the need to be in control. So we didn't integrate that energy of Libra. We continued on this linear trajectory of power over, idealization of war, of violence, of conquest, of competition, of mastery over others. And that carried through then into the age of Pisces. Now, the age of Pisces, with the ruler being Neptune and the traditional ruler being Jupiter, the beginning of the age of Pisces brought us the teachings of Buddha and the teachings of Christ that were about, remember, you're a part of the oneness of all that is. Come back into your connection with the wisdom of the divine, of cosmic consciousness, which is within you. Remember your capacity to reconnect with your soul self, with your awareness of your immortality. Remember that. If we could have moved then into those energies of the age of Pisces in a more full way, we could have healed that trauma from the past and reclaimed our mystical, spiritual understanding of our interconnectedness with each other and with all of life. Instead, that energy of the dominator culture, power over the hierarchical paradigms, the need for control, continued into the age of Pisces, and we see the political power of Rome taking over Christianity in particular and institutionalizing it as the state religion in a way that then that core teaching of Christ, of Buddha, of other spiritual teachers of that time that are about, no, the wisdom of the divine is within us. It's not outside of us. It's not about external authorities. It's not about power over. It's about our connection with the divine within us. That got suppressed and repressed. So then we move into the sub-age of Pisces, which is under the influence of Virgo, ruled by Mercury. And what we see, instead of, had we taken in those spiritual teachings of the beginning of the age of Pisces, then the sub-age in Virgo would be about, how do we bring that mystical understanding and our spiritual connection into our day-to-day lives, Virgo, to be of service to others, to be of healing benefit to others, Virgo. Instead, we take this out of balance energy of Pisces, the institutionalization of religion, the increasing paradigm of domination and power over, and the sub-age of Pisces, this past 1,000 years, becomes an idealization of the mind and an increasing focus on left brain ways of knowing, and our ongoing disconnection from source and from that sense of our interconnectedness with each other, our connection to our soul selves and to the oneness of all that is. So here we are now on the cusp of the age of Aquarius and being called to face ourselves, to heal our individual trauma, to heal this collective PTSD, so that we can make this evolutionary leap into a radically new way of being. In an exquisite way, the earth and sky are guiding us in how to awaken and be in that healing and transformational process. As we move into this time, 2012, the solstice, December 21, 2012, was when we actually experienced that threshold point of the ending of one precessional cycle, the beginning of a new one, that occurs when the sun is in alignment with the galactic center and in alignment with the galactic equator. And we're in that transition time. And we're seeing increasing earth changes that are bringing to our consciousness that collective fear and PTSD in order to support us in facing it and healing it. But look at what's going on in the collective consciousness. We have these movies, these books, these energies of the fear of Armageddon, the end of the world, because we're still processing unconsciously that PTSD from the past. Remember that from a psychological perspective, and Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot in his work, that 90% of our thoughts, feelings, and behavior are controlled by what's unconscious within us. If we're carrying that trauma signature, it is controlling our behavior, even though we've suppressed or repressed that awareness of our collective trauma. And if we don't bring it to awareness and heal it and clear it, we are in danger of repeating it. But the earth and sky are saying, wake up, remember, this is what you're needing to face and heal. And I think it is extraordinary that we've had earlier this year Pluto squaring the lunar nodes in South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Taurus. Face your fear of death. Face the trauma. This was occurring as we're coming out of the crisis with the pandemic, activating our fear of death. Pluto squaring the lunar nodes. This is a karmic moment for transformation. It's a karmic moment for healing. Face what didn't get faced in that time in the sub-age of Scorpio, 3000 to 2000 BCE. It's here with you now. Face that fear of death and come back into the remembrance of your immortality. You are soul selves having a human experience. Heal, clear that collective PTSD so that you can, North Node in Taurus, reclaim the sacredness of the life around us and move into new forms. Now, and for the rest of the year, Pluto's move back into Capricorn is now squaring the lunar nodes, South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries. Come back to what needs to heal from that sub-age of the age of Aries. Reclaim that Libra energy, that remembrance of being in right relationship, right harmony, right balance with all that is, in order to reintegrate it with the energy of Aries, North Node in Aries, in a now more healed, whole, balanced way. Integrate what needed to be healed and integrated that we didn't resolve as we moved through the age of Aries, so that we can move into these new forms of the Aquarian age. We moved into South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, beginning in July of 2023. And remember that the lunar nodes stay in a particular configuration for about 18 months. So we'll be in that dynamic with Libra, Aries, with the lunar nodes, until January of 2025, when they then move into South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. So as we're in this period of 18 months with the South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, this is time to clear and heal and resolve those issues that didn't get worked out in that age of Aries. And part of working that through is not only coming back into balance, into right relationship, reclaiming that energy of Libra, but I truly believe it's also reclaiming the more balanced energies of the age of Aries. Remember, every sign can manifest in higher levels of consciousness or its shadow aspect. And the shadow aspect of the age of Aries is war, domination, corruption, greed, destruction. The deeper meaning of the energy of Mars and Aries at a higher level of consciousness is that energy of the hero's journey to bring those gifts back in service to others, to be in the exploration of our own sense of self, to come back into right relationship, come back into connection with source and into connection with community. Then we're in that energy of honoring our capacity to be in our diversity with each other in a more collaborative way and not in a competitive way. I also see it as rebalancing the energies of the left brain with the right brain, coming into whole brain ways of being. So it is about language and our capacity to experience our analytical minds. And it is about right brain ways of being, which are about intuition, creativity, empathy, our capacity to read social and emotional cues to be in right relationship. So this is the challenge that we're in. And with Pluto squaring the lunar nodes now through December of this year, it is a karmic choice point. Pluto is saying it is time to face these issues, transform, heal. If we don't, we will play out the trauma pattern and the shadow aspects of the age of Aries even more intensely. And we're seeing that happening in the world as well. But again, the more of us that wake up, that move into this higher consciousness, we have the capacity to seed that in the collective consciousness. And as Rupert Sheldrake would say, that morphogenic field can transform the collective consciousness. I think it's extraordinary then, as we move into January 2025 until July, end of July 2026, we're in that energy of South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, supporting us in reconnecting with that wisdom of the polarity of Virgo and Pisces to come back into that deeper connection with our soul selves, with our awareness of our being part of the oneness of all that is, our connection with cosmic consciousness, and our capacity then to live that out, Virgo, in a way that is of service, that is healing, that is bearing the fruits of that alignment with our soul selves. Then as we move to the end of July 2026, then for the next 18 months, South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius. I truly believe then that energetic is, how do we then claim this more healed sense of self, come from the heart, Leo, be in that energy and light of the sun and source, to be living as light bodies on the planet, to then North Node in Aquarius, truly begin to embody, emanate, manifest the energies of the Aquarian age. I truly believe that a critical threshold point for the Aquarian age will be the end of 2024, when Pluto moves fully into Aquarius, calling us across that threshold point into the Aquarian energies and paradigms. But then I believe if we're working this journey with the lunar nodes, as we move into August 2026 and the next 18 months, we are then beginning to more fully manifest those energies of the Aquarian age, which, as I've said before, I see as the sovereignty of the self in the sanctity of community and in unity with cosmic consciousness. If we've worked the healing of those ages and integrated those energies that we need to integrate to come into wholeness, then we understand a balanced, healthy expression of the sovereignty of the self. We reclaim the sacredness of being in right relationship and being in community, and we honor that we are soul selves in unity with cosmic consciousness, and able to live in that alignment with our deeper experience of our spirituality and our soul selves. Interestingly enough, then as we move into 2027, still with the lunar nodes, South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius, from the end of June 2027 to the end of February 2028, Pluto is conjunct the North Node in Aquarius. I truly see that time frame as Pluto empowering us to be manifesting, experiencing, thriving in the energies of the Aquarian age that are about truth, justice, balance, living from the heart, coming from love, rebalancing the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, coming into that understanding of the living energies of all of life, remembering the capacity of our consciousness to communicate and commune with all that is, with the life around us, the plants, the animals, the waters, the sky, the planets, to be moving into these new paradigms and higher consciousness. It's extraordinary. And in such a profound way, the lunar nodes, which show us karmically, energetically, spiritually, what are we meant to be working, are showing us the way in how to heal that collective PTSD, reclaim the lessons that we didn't integrate as we moved through those ages in order to be prepared to move in a profound way into manifesting the Aquarian paradigms. It's interesting to me that channelers like Lee Harris, who I have a great deal of respect for, and he channels the Z's, they also talk about how this year and 2024 are a turbulent time of transition. It shifts towards the end of 2024. Then things begin to progress potentially to be in a more balanced, harmonious state by 2027. So it's interesting that the astrological energies parallel a lot of what's coming through with channelers and other spiritual and psychic messengers that are showing us that this is what we're capable of. This is our potential. This is an incredible opportunity for us as humanity to make this evolutionary leap. There's one other piece that I want to weave into this that I just find extraordinary, and that is the cycle of Uranus and Saturn. Remember that combination of Uranus and Saturn, Uranus is that planet that is the truth teller that's guiding us into truth, into justice, into clarity, into freedom, into new ways of being. And Saturn is how do we then manifest that in our world, in the systems and structures of our world. And as I've talked about in earlier videos, I find it exquisite that this cycle with Uranus and Saturn is 44 years in length, and that the last one that we experienced began in February 12th of 1988, shortly after the harmonic convergence. And at that time, the conjunction of Uranus and Saturn was at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. In the sky, that's conjunct the galactic center. So we started this new cycle with Uranus and Saturn, guiding us to come back into connection with Source. Remember who you are. Remember your connection with the galactic center. Remember your energy beings, spiritual beings, a part of the oneness of all that is. So Saturn and Uranus were trying to guide us as we're moving into this time towards the end of the precessional cycle. And the many in the spiritual prophecies described that period from the harmonic convergence, 1987, to 2012 as the time of preparation and purification, to be ending that precessional cycle and moving through that transformational process. So Uranus and Saturn were saying, come back into connection with Source. Remember who you really are. That 44-year cycle with Uranus and Saturn will continue until we come to a new cycle, June 28th, 2032, at 28 degrees of Gemini. This is what I've talked about in previous videos as in the sky at the upraised arm of Orion. Remember, Orion is that constellation that symbolizes death, rebirth. And I truly believe this is guiding us to realize as we can reconnect with Source, with the galactic center, be guided through this journey of healing and evolution and transformation, we then come through that and begin to more fully manifest the Aquarian age and paradigms as we move into 2027, 2028, and then by 2032, we are seeing the full fruits of our resurrection, our rebirth, our capacity to move into this whole new way of experiencing ourselves as humanity, this higher consciousness. This is what's exhilarating about this time that we're in and what we're capable of and the capacity that we have to move into these radically new paradigms and higher consciousness. And we can choose whether we participate with these energies or resist them. We can choose whether we cling to the paradigms of the past and stay mired in the trauma of the past, individually and collectively, or whether we awaken, open to healing, open to the transformation that's there for us. We're being supported and guided by the energies of the earth and sky to move through this time of transition and transformation. So this is a turbulent time, and I do see 2023 into 2024 as this time that we're in this choice point, and we're being guided through this, the labor pains into this new birth. But this is what we can do to support that journey being a more gentle one and a more conscious transition and transformation by honoring the journey that we're being guided through with Pluto, with the lunar nodes. Remember, those are the energies of our evolutionary soul's journey, individually and collectively, Pluto and the lunar nodes. I really respect Jeffrey Wolf Green's work that so highlights that. And so as we're working these Pluto energies, as we're working with the phases of these lunar nodes, guiding us through healing and clearing and integrating the deeper lessons of these astrological ages, we are prepared to move into this higher consciousness and co-create a new world together. I'll be going into more depth as we move through these coming years about other planets in aspect to the lunar nodes, other critical transits that we're in. But I think this is a profound guidance that we're getting from Pluto and the lunar nodes in how we can move through this time to heal and awaken and co-create a new world together. Thank you for being a part of that journey. Thank you for the ways in which this community is working this process so consciously, for the ways in which we are supporting each other in healing, awakening, and transforming. This is what's profound about the time that we're in on the planet and that we've incarnated to be here to support this profound transition and transformation. Blessings to all of you. Blessed be.